Hello, my loves. I hope you're all well. Welcome back. This is day 2 of Cage Birds and Audio Experience. I'm Teso Uwaibi. In our last episode, we see Phoenix. She shuts the door on Lagos. Today, she's on her way to Abuja. She's excited and reminiscing. This is chapter 2. The next morning, I stood at the hotel front desk, ready to settle my bill. However, the manager told me that my bill had already been paid. I was puzzled. By who? Mr. Ike, madam, she replied. The manager pronounced his name Ike, even though he liked to say his name was pronounced Ike, as in Ike Turner. I suspected she was pronouncing it correctly, and that Ike was short for Ikena. I let out a little laugh and shook my head. I should have known. Not that I was complaining. This was the kind of attentiveness and usefulness I loved. Lagos was hard. In fact, Nigeria was hard. These little things helped. I smiled, thanked Mrs. Tunde, the hotel manager, and got into the car that they had sent for me. It was a neat black Range Rover with a silver streak down the middle. The interior was pristine, with black leather seats. It was a nice change from Olayinka's old Toyota RAV4. I got into the car and the driver said, "Good morning, ma. We're headed to MM2 Airport." "Good morning. Yes, that's correct." I took my earphones out of my bag and put them in my ears. I just wanted to close my eyes and ride in peace. I opened my eyes as we climbed the 3rd mainland bridge. When I first met Ike, I had recently moved back to Nigeria. I was living in Abuja and was fresh on the scene. I thought it was ironic that I was heading to the airport with his driver, as this airport was where I had first met him for the first time 3 years ago. I was walking through the airport, frustrated that my flight had been delayed yet again. It was now 5 p.m. and my flight was supposed to have left at 9:30 a.m. I was beyond irritated. I walked over to the table where Cynthia, my cousin, was sitting. 2 annoying guys were there. They'd parked themselves at our table and immediately tried to strike up a conversation. They too were frustrated at the delayed flights and thought that coming to gum Cynthia and me would make sense. Of course, in their minds, we couldn't possibly have wanted to be by ourselves. We needed male company like we needed air. What did we do to deserve this, God? I sighed. Honestly, can women ever sit and be left in peace? Must men attach themselves to us all the time? And yet we're the desperate ones. Hilarious. I took that as my cue to go and use the toilet. When I came back, I sat down, rested my chin in my hand and let out a deep, heavy sigh. I was beyond fed up. I felt a figure looming behind me. "Hi, how are you doing?" "I'm Ike. Can I talk to you?" I didn't move my head. I just moved my eyes to the left and then up. A brown-skinned, smiley-faced man in a white kaftan stood over me. The scent of Tom Ford Black Orchid perfume drifted from him. I could recognize that fragrance anywhere. I loved it. But I wasn't moved. I shifted my eyes back to face my front. "No, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you." "Why? What's wrong? I may be able to help you," he said. Then I did. "What can I do to get you to talk to me?" There was a glint in his eyes and a teasing persistence in his tone. He seemed like a jovial spirit, unshaken by my resistance. I turned to face him properly for the first time, taking him in. His skin was a smooth, rich, milk chocolate brown. His eyes, dark and expressive, sparkled with mischief and excitement, as if hinting at an outspoken joke. His nose was well-proportioned, complementing the structure of his face. His teeth were small and white, the front two slightly convex. a subtle imperfection that only added to his charm. His cheeks were softly defined, giving his face a balanced, sculpted look without appearing gaunt. And there was a quiet sharpness to his jawline. Clean, but not too chiseled. Fine. Get me on the next flight to Abuja, I said, deadpan, feeling a bit smug inside because I knew it was impossible. The flights were a nightmare and our bags had already been checked in. To my absolute surprise, he said, "Okay." I was slightly taken aback, but I didn't show it. Instead, I said, for me and my cousin," and pointed at Cynthia, who gave him a coy smile. "Okay, give me your boarding passes," he said. So I handed them over. At this point, he finally acknowledged the guy sitting at our table and said, "Hi, sorry, is she your girlfriend?" referring to me. Both guys shook their heads. "No, sir." He looked at me again, said he'd be back and left. His walk was strong and confident as he pulled a black Louis Vuitton Demir hand luggage with him, a matching briefcase perched neatly on top. We all sat there a little stunned. Had I really just given our boarding passes to a total stranger? As if reading my mind, Cynthia whispered, "Phoenix, what if he doesn't come back?" We laughed nervously. Given the kind of luck we'd been having, it wouldn't have surprised me. "I hope not," I said, still doubtful. The guys at the table were absolutely starstruck. This Ike guy had charmed them too. They chatted excitedly to themselves. The one in the red shirt said, "Omo, CP, this guy na correct guy." The boy in the blue denim jacket replied, "The guy too smooth. If I be babe, I for gree for him." I gave them side eye. Calm down, I beg. Guys could be such groupies. After that, the tone shifted. They stopped trying to chat us up and instead excitedly discussed Ike. I had a feeling they wished he'd spoken to them instead. After about 40 minutes, Ike strode back. "Let's go." "Huh? My flight is still delayed," I replied. "No, let's go. Get up. I've moved you onto my flight with North Air. It's leaving now." "Wait, what about our luggage?" I asked. "They've moved them already. Now, let's go," he replied. I couldn't believe it. How did he manage to do that? When we asked earlier, customer service told us all flights were fully booked. How did he get them to offload our luggage and reload them onto his flight, which was leaving now? My head was swimming with questions, but I said nothing. Cynthia and I stood up to follow him. The airline manager was hot on his heels, leading us to the front of the boarding queue. The two boys also stood up. I don't know where they thought they were going for the life of me. They followed us up until the boarding gate, probably just wanting to see how everything played out right up until the end. They were smitten with Ike. When we got to the front of the gate, we were met by a woman who seemed to be another manager for the airline. She looked at our handwritten boarding passes and asked to double check. Ike calmly said, "The printing machines weren't working, so the check-in staff wrote them manually." She told us to step aside while she double checks. Ike didn't budge. He simply said, "No." The male manager, who had been trailing behind us, pulled her aside. I couldn't hear what he told her, but he seemed stern. When she returned, she looked at Ike with a sudden realization and apologized profusely. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't realize." He shot her a condescending look. "You need to learn how to do your job." She apologized again. As we walked through the tunnel towards the plane with the male manager still following behind, Ike spoke again. "Can you imagine that lady? Why would she do that? I had already explained. She's so uncivilized." Cynthia and I agreed out loud. We were used to things like that happening to us all the time. We were women, after all. We were always getting stopped and questioned, unnecessary attention and harassment. But one minor challenge by a woman and he was triggered. At the entrance of the plane, the air hostess greeted Ike like she knew him personally and showed us our seats. We sat at the very front of the plane, the first seats, business class. He had not only moved us onto the earlier flight, but also upgraded our seats. Fabulous. We were thrilled about this change in luck. As we tucked into our in-flight meal, soggy jollof rice and dry chicken that I looked forward to, weirdly, Ike still hadn't let go of his anger. She's so ugly too, you know. It's always the ugly ones that behave like that, he mocked. I tried to crack a joke and change the subject. Well, lucky for you, you actually got us on this flight. You delivered. I laughed. He acted like he hadn't heard me. He was muttering under his breath, no doubt still insulting the lady. At the time, Cynthia and I just laughed at his eccentricity. It wasn't that big of a deal. I whispered to her. Clearly this one's head did torture. We sniggered. But in hindsight, his irritation and anger with that woman should have been a red flag. We are here, Ma, the driver said as he pulled up at the entrance of the airport. I'd been lost in thought, mulling over the day I met Ike and didn't realize we had arrived. I looked around at the already busy airport. It was 8:05 a.m. and everybody was bustling and on the move. Typical Lagos style. Thank you, I said, as I got out of the car with my 2 suitcases, hand luggage, and handbag in tow. I was about to embark on a fresh life in Abuja. I'd relocated to Lagos from London less than 6 months prior. I decided to move back to Nigeria from the UK when I finished my undergraduate degree because I knew my best life was buried here and I was ready to unearth it and soar. The ceiling in the UK constantly pressed down on my dreams of grandeur and peace. I wanted to be surrounded by my people in our land with all its abundance and splendor. Sure, the West and the whitewashed media were always trying to make us believe that our land and its people were destitute. But I knew better. The Chinese, the Americans, the French, and the Brits still have their grubby fingers firmly dipped in the honeypot that is the motherland. Yet they want me to believe that the West is better than Africa. Ha! I think not. Fine, Auntie, do you need a trolley? Let me help you with your bags. A smallish boy with deep brown eyes said as he pushed the trolley closer to me. Why do men do that? Must you refer to how I look? I wondered if he would have said, fine uncle, if it were a man. Probably not. I sighed. Yes, please, I said, watching him expertly stack my suitcase and hand luggage before forging ahead. What airline, Ma? Rica Airline, I replied. Okay, it's this left, he said. I knew it was left, but I didn't bother stating that. I just followed him. Once we got to the counter, he asked for my passport. No. Get me the manager of Rica Air, please, Mr. Daniel, I replied. A tall, bald man with skin the colour of honey, who had been standing behind the counter with his back to us, turned around. Good afternoon, madam. I am Mr. Daniel. How can I be of help? Good afternoon, Mr. Daniel. My name is Phoenix Alara. Uzo and Mr. Ike said you'd get me checked in, I said in one breath. Ah, yes, Miss Alara. I was expecting you. Can I have your passport? I reached into my bag and pulled out my black passport holder and handed it to him. Thank you, madame, he said. Then he swiftly checked in my bags and printed my boarding pass. I'll take you through to the lounge myself. I reached into my bag again, this time producing a mint 1,000 naira note and handed it to the trolley clerk. "Thank you, ma," he said, and off he went. Mr. Daniel came round from behind the counter and stood beside me. I could see him take me in with a look that I can only describe as delight. I wore an army green maxi dress and gold sandals with brownstone glasses firmly on my face. In that moment, I was grateful for them. They hid the irritated look in my eyes. "Which way to the lounge?" I asked. "This way, madame. Follow me." We passed through security stress-free and walked to the left side of the airport hall through another set of dark wooden doors that read, "Business Class Lounge." "Here you are. The flight is scheduled to take off on time, so please relax and listen out for your boarding call," he said. "Great. Thank you, Mr. Daniel," I said, and he turned to leave. "Actually, please give me your number," I said. It's good to have these kinds of airport plugs when you're traveling. He called his number out and I saved it on my phone. "Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Have a great day." "You too, madame," he said, and then walked out of the lounge. I sat down and was grateful for the mostly empty lounge. There was one lady dressed in a beautiful black and gold jalabia and a turban. She looked so elegant, and as I walked past her, I could smell a whiff of Dior Oud Isfahan. I smiled. Northern women were always so beautiful and elegant. The only other passenger was an older man seated to the right of me. He looked about 70 or thereabouts. He had on a dark grey kaftan, gold-rimmed glasses, and an aboki hat. He was reading the Daily Voice newspaper. I walked past him and sat down on a plush leather sofa tucked in the corner. I put my handbag on the centre table in front of me and pulled out my phone. It was 8:35 a.m. Boarding would be announced soon. I opened WhatsApp and sent Uzo a message. "I met Mr. Daniel at the airport. All checked in, just waiting for boarding. Flight should be leaving on time." Uzo messaged back immediately. "Good morning, Phoenix. I'm glad everything went smoothly. Let me know when you're about to take off so I can send a driver for you." I put my phone down and let my mind wander off. A few moments later, I heard an announcement. "Rika Air Flight 341 to Abuja is boarding now. Please come forward for boarding." I stood and made my way to the boarding gate. There was no one on the business line, so I walked straight through. I could seriously get used to this. Once I sat down, I sent Uzo another message. "I'm on board now. See you soon." Then I turned off my phone for the 50-minute flight. And just like that, guys, Phoenix is on her way to Abuja for a brand new start, and Lagos is behind her. So in this chapter, we start to see exactly why Phoenix is drawn to Ike and also why she's in Nigeria. I mean, in a country where everything is hard and flights can be delayed for 10 hours at a time, a man that can just come, click his fingers and move mountains seems like a superhero. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, the nuance is he's not just helpful, but he's powerful. You know, you see that in the airport when he's able to transfer them from one flight to the other flight with absolute ease. But did you notice the moment his jovial spirit turned to venom? He is so angry at the airport staff, the manager, for doing her job. You know, he insults her, says she's uncivilized and she's ugly, and he finds it hard to let go. Even on the plane, he's still thinking about it, you know. And for 22-year-old Phoenix and Cynthia, they're laughing because they're just happy to be in business class eating jollof rice, even if it's soggy. Phoenix mentions it. She sees it because she says, you know, this one's headed torture. And then she also talks about, you know, her and Cynthia are used to being questioned and stopped all the time because they're women. But they kind of see it as, they just assume that Ike is defending them. She doesn't see it as a red flag, you know. And as an author, I wrote this to show the first tiny crack in the mask You know, that encounter illustrates that Ike doesn't respect systems and he doesn't respect women that stand in his way. You know, did you clock the red flag, or did you think it was normal? Let me know how you feel about that part. And also, you know, I wanted us to think about Phoenix's reasons for being in Nigeria. She talks about the UK ceiling, and those of us that live in the West, we can relate with that. That suffocating mix of systemic racism and the what is going on? I'm so tongue-tied today, guys. Bear with me. But yeah, she's the UK ceiling, you know, which is that suffocating mix of systemic racism and the exhaustion of having to prove yourself every single day, and the regular microaggressions, you know. So Phoenix completely rejects the West's better narrative because she knows better. She's seen the abundance of her own land and she wants in. So I absolutely love that for her. She's a woman looking for her roots and her power. And honestly, let's be real. The nepotism she mentions, in London, the doors are locked by systems she cannot control. But in Nigeria, they're opened by a simple phone call. She's not mad at it though. Why should she be? She loves the attentiveness and the ease of success that comes with knowing the right people. You know, at 22, she feels like she's finally found the cheat code to grandeur, you know. But she's navigating Lagos utilizing the power of men. Paul gives her a job on a Saturday. Alyssa's presence shakes Paul when he picks her up after work. Even her stress-free passage through security is as a result of Ike. So these are the small things that we're noticing. You know, she thinks she's using their power to build her own, but is she really? Let me know what you guys think. I hope you're enjoying it so far. This is the end of chapter 2. Thank you for joining me today. If you would like to read the book, if you'd like to buy a copy of the book, the physical copy of the book is available on my website, which is www.cagebirdsthebook.com. The physical copy is also available on Amazon.com. So is the Kindle. It's available on Kindle. It's also available on Apple iBooks and Google Play. So guys, please buy the book, purchase it, read it on your own if you want to. Read it with me. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your comments. I'd love to hear them. I'm Tayso UYB. Thank you guys for soaring with me today and for soaring with Phoenix. I'll see you guys in the next episode. So stay with her.